Today, EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt followed through, signing off on a proposed rule today to begin withdrawing from the Clean Power Plan. An Obama-era policy this administration believes does more harm than good. Administrator Scott Pruitt joins me now here on the North Lawn to talk about this change. Good evening.
Good to see you, Brett.
Why is this important?
Well, the president made a promise to the American people that the EPA would not be an agency that picks winners and losers as we generate electricity in this country. I mean, the past administration, Brett, made a commitment to declare a war on coal. And effectively yesterday and today, that war is over. The war on coal is over. So this is the beginning of the process to carry out the president's promises to make sure that we do our job at the agency within the bounds of the law and also don't declare war on certain sectors of our economy.
Former EPA Administrator Carol Browner issued a statement today saying this: the EPA's mission is simple: protect our health and environment. Playing games with the science to justify rolling back the Clean Power Plan and the health and economic benefits it would provide ignores the basic moral and ethical imperative. Administrator Pruitt's decision is especially cynical, coming as wildfires devastate the West and in the wake of 4 disastrous hurricanes that have battered the Gulf Coast from Texas to Tampa, causing billions in damage and taking lives. She finishes, repealing the Clean Power Plan is a total giveaway to polluters at the expense of our health, our environment, our economy. Your reaction to that?
Well, look, the U.S. Supreme Court here, Brett, took an unprecedented step. It intervened and issued a stay against the Clean Power Plan a year or so ago. And they did so because when you look at the way the previous agency conducted itself, the leadership, they acted inconsistent with the authority under the statute. They created uncertainty. Nothing has been achieved out of this rule. It's created uncertainty across the country. So we've taken the step to begin the process to rectify that, to provide clarity to folks across the country, and make sure that whatever we do at the agency, we're not picking winners and losers. Think about it, Brett. An agency of the federal government declaring war against a sector of our economy in the generation of electricity. I mean, how does that sound? And that's what the past administration did. The president made a promise to rectify that, and that's what this process is about.
Are you saying to coal country that those jobs are coming back?
Well, in fact,
coal is going to turn around?
I think what's important is we generate electricity, the resiliency of the grid, the stability of the grid, that we have fuel diversity. I think for anyone to advance a notion that we should do away with all fossil fuels in the generation of electricity is simply not thinking correctly. And the president has made a clear message that we're going to make sure we do our job, protect air in this country, but do so with respect to how utility companies make decisions. What was most offensive about this rule was it truly co-opted and coerced states across the country to take over the power grid. It was a power grab over the power grid. And that's something we're fixing. And the president has been strong and courageous to make sure that we get this right. It was a campaign promise. We've executed upon it from a regulatory perspective, and it's sending a message across the country that those jobs matter, but also the environment matters.
President Obama, defending this when he did it, August 2015, said this:
they will claim that this plan will cost you money, even though this plan, the analysis shows, will ultimately save the average American nearly $85 a year on their energy bills. They'll claim we need to slash our investments in clean energy. It's a waste of money, even though they're happy to spend billions of dollars a year in subsidizing oil companies. They'll claim this plan will kill jobs, even though our transition to a cleaner energy economy has the solar industry, to just name one example, creating jobs 10 times faster than the rest of the economy.
Was he wrong?
Ask those folks in Hazard, Kentucky, where I was yesterday with Leader McConnell, talking about this very issue when I was standing inside of a manufacturing facility and a large percentage of their employees were no longer employed. You know, when we look at Pennsylvania and other parts of our country and Ohio and the lost mining jobs there, largely because of this action by the previous administration. The last administration told us that they were going to declare and act on a war on coal, and they actually achieved that. And so this is a message to folks all across the country. That's not the role of a federal agency. We're going to do our job, do it within the confines of the statute, but we're going to do so in a way that's respectful of the law and those jobs across the country.
There were other things the last administration did that you're kind of finding out and changing. Namely, they're working with different groups to almost write the regulations.
Yes, something called sue and settle, Brett, where the agency would be sued, the EPA would be sued by a third party, and literally they would walk into the courthouse and agree to engage in a settlement and put it in a consent decree, and then use that practice to force their will upon states across the country, called sue and settle, regulation through litigation. We're in the process of changing that, but that's emblematic of this overall abuse of the agency acting in ways that are inconsistent with their authority, creating uncertainty. What we need in the regulatory environment is certainty for those that are regulated so that they can plan and allocate resources. When we generate electricity, we need diversity of fuels, not less. You know, we should be focused on the renewables, but we should also use fossil fuels because the cost effectiveness and the reliability, that's what we should be focused upon.
You've come under criticism, and you can imagine the critics all over who are upset that all of this is getting unwound. One, that you're meeting too much with big companies who eventually get the regulations overturned or rules rolled back.
You know, it's interesting. People criticize, some folks criticize with whom I meet, but those farmers and ranchers I meet with in Iowa, they're as much the conservationists, environmentalists as the folks we meet with here in D.C., the associations. I mean, we're meeting with stakeholders across the country. We cannot achieve good outcomes, Brett, without working with our stakeholders, states, citizens, industry, farmers and ranchers. That's how we achieve good outcomes. We've always done that. The voices of those folks were not heard in the last administration. They're being heard in this administration.
The other criticism is about your plane travel and whether it is justified to go back, whatever it is, 10 times back to Oklahoma by private air travel. You saw what happened to Secretary Price. There is an IG report looking into your travel. How do you respond to those criticisms?
It wasn't private air travel back to Oklahoma. I think the accusation has been that the travel we've taken across the country is too much. And I would say to you that when we meet with stakeholders, farmers and ranchers and those kinds of folks, we're doing the job of a regulator. We're hearing from those folks and making sure we do the job in an informed way. It's not best to sit in Washington, D.C. and just meet with associations. We should be meeting with those stakeholders all over the country, and what I did in Oklahoma is no different than I did in North Dakota or Iowa or Indiana. We talked about issues, we advanced those issues, and dealt with the overreach of the agency of the past administration.
And now the OMB has set some guidelines for all agencies as far as travel and how it's going to go.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And you're meeting that.
Yeah.
Mr. Administrator, thanks
Good
for the time.
Likewise.